Turn me to 2 Kings, the 5th chapter. We're going to preach a little bit. We have been trying and endeavoring under God's grace to build the type of environment where everybody can get healed. And I'm just glad tonight that I serve a whosoever will kind of God. You're quiet. I said, I'm just so glad tonight that I serve a whosoever will kind of God. The person next to you is Mother Teresa. So they're not being honest. But how many of you know you were not qualified to be saved, redeemed, sanctified, and then, if that weren't enough, gave you a purpose? It wasn't enough to just pull you from hell, but he began to speak destiny into you. I'm glad, Sia, that I serve a whosoever will kind of God. And we've been trying to build that with all nations, because you know what I think God is tired of hearing? This church ain't for everybody. You know, and it's something that churches who can't grow say. But I believe that there should never be a church that ain't for everybody. God is for everybody. And so if God is in your church, then it shouldn't matter if you're black, white, Republican, Democrat, rich, poor. Everybody should have room under the cross. Praise God. And it takes a lot to do that, because you've got to undo years of religious indoctrination that almost heightens criticism and judgmentalism and theological dualism. Standards that eject people. And so we believe that sin is sin. We believe that demons are demons. We believe that holiness is real. But we also believe that it is available to everybody. Praise God. There is not a thing, and I need to slow down before I start screaming now. There is not a thing that you can't be delivered from. There is no such thing as an undeliverable. I don't care how deep the pit is. Jesus Christ himself went to the bottom of the earth to make sure that there was no area that was untouched by his power. He can pull you out. And I want some more souls in this place. Sick of looking at y'all every week. I want some more people. I want people from every walk of life. I want some witches, some warlocks. Previously, not your current ones. I want some folks that have laid their beads down. Praise God. I want some folk that have come off the strip table. Praise God. They're not ready for me tonight. I want some drug dealers in process. Pray that's still working out how to get rid of their load. That's what I want. I want some folk fresh out. I love the smell of hangovers. I do. I want that. Because then and only then can a place prove that God is in the midst of you. I wish that you would get that the healed, Jesus said, are not in need of a physician. And I am interested in building a culture that can strip people down to their bare truth and clothe them in righteousness. Say, that is so. In 2 Kings chapter 5, Mike Martin's going to help me preach this. I'm going to push this mic in his mouth in a minute. But 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1 says, now Naaman was the commander of the army of the king of Aram, and he was a great man. Say, he was a great man. Come on, say, he was a great man. He was a great man in the sight of his master, and he was highly regarded because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram, and he was a valiant soldier. Scream, but. Say, but. Because here's what we've got to realize. There's a lot of people in here and out there that are at war between managing what's right with them and what's wrong with them. Now, the person next to you is going to act like everything is right with them. But there's a lot of people who really are progressing in one area and gaining victory in one area, but seems like there is another stubborn, sometimes visible, consistent thing that almost works to counsel out what's right. But look at somebody, tell them what's wrong with you is not more powerful than what's right with you. Come on, you Anglican, open your mouth. Tell them what's wrong with you does not have authority over what's right with you. He was a great man who the Lord used, who had leprosy. Doesn't that shock you that the Lord used a diseased man? Doesn't it bless you that the God of heaven gave victory to a people through a diseased man. That obviously God was unbothered about his particular condition for the circumstance and used him for the season. I'll show you why. Look at verse 2. Now bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. And she said to her mistress, if only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria. Get ready, Shanak. You got on your holy garments. You're going to help me tonight. He would cure him of his leprosy. Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. By all means, the king of Aram replied, I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, shekels of gold, 10 sets of clothes. Then the letter he took to the king of Israel read, with this letter, I'm sending my servant Naaman to you so that you may cure him of his leprosy. And as soon as the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his robe and said, am I God? Can I kill and bring back to life? Which literally means that there are people who only God can handle. Now, there's a kind of condition and there's a kind of state that's beyond human power. But the way God handles men is through men. A part of what your life ministry is to be the hand of God. God uses men to be his handlers. And so when God has marked a life, a story, a family, what happens is, if there is a thing in the midst of you that you decide is untouchable, then you're going to end up not responding to the opportunity to bring healing as the hand of God. Now, verse 8, when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his robes, he sent this message, why have you torn your robes? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. And Elisha sent a messenger to say to him, go and wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be cleansed. But Naaman went away mad. I thought that he would at least come out to me, stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over me, and then cure me of my leprosy. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash in some cleaner waters and be clean? So he turned and went off in his rage. Naaman's servants went to him and said, my father, if the prophet had told you to do something great, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you wash and be cleansed? So he went down and dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times as the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. We're almost there. Then Naaman and all his attendants went back to the man of God. He stood before him and said, now I know that there is no God in all the world except Israel, so please accept a gift from your servant. But the prophet answered him and said, as surely as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I'm not accepting a thing. And even Naaman urged him, and he refused. Here is my verse. Naaman said, if you will not, then please let me, your servant, be given as much dirt as my mules can carry. For your servant will never again make a burnt offering or a sacrifice to any other God but the Lord. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, give me a little dirt. Come on, look at somebody else, say, give me just a little dirt. L-I-L. Come on. Trevonic, say, give me a little bit of dirt. You're going to be better off in your life when you come to the resolve that everything can't happen in every place. There are certain resources that are assigned to your life that are native to certain zones, certain areas, God sends ravens to brooks and then communicates to Elijah where he sent the provision. Should Elijah decide that I don't like that brook and I'm not going to go, the ravens would still be where they were told to go, and Elijah would miss the provision. I find that a large part of people's arrested development is a lack of discernment concerning where they have to go to get what they need. There's a lot of people who acknowledge that they need a thing and they admire that the thing exists. They are just unwilling, Pastor Michael, to forego their convenience, praise be God, and to surrender their idea or their ideal to get where what they need actually is. But the Bible is replete with patterns of God supplying people and then causing that supply to remain in a place and then allowing something else to happen in the heart of the person that needs to supply to test whether or not the person is more interested in the need or the method. The provision or the path. The power or the preference. It matters where you get what you need. And what I love is that I learned very early on that destiny is a zone. You can step literally into the threshold of certain places and literally become something you were not before the threshold. There are atmospheres, only intercessors know this. There are climates and there are temperatures that you can step in, and the thing going in the room can confront the thing going in the heart and change you. Say, prove it. Saul was Saul until he was among the prophets. What does that show? There was a zone he stepped in. Look at somebody and say, get in the zone, get in the zone, get in the zone. Come on, maybe your problem is you're not in the right zone. You've got to find your place. Call it a tribe, a community, a group, a squad, whatever it is, you need one. And there are parts of you that won't ever be healed until you get inside the zone. Naaman had a powerful skill. I'm going to preach like I'm by myself. He was, obviously, Ross, he was a fighter. And he was a fighter par excellence, Arian, because the Bible said the Lord selected him to grant a victory to the people. And God don't select people unless he is confident in what he put in that people. Hey, glory. I said God does not select a person while he's still trying to become confident in what's in the person. In other words, if the Lord calls you for anything, it is not necessarily because of your knowledge of what's in you. It's because of what he knows he put in you. So there is no such thing as being up against something bigger than you. What you're up against is bigger than your knowledge than you. He knows what he put there. Slap your mama and say, get in the zone, get in the zone, get in the zone. Oh yes, and a part of what happens in the zone is you start to walk in integrity, Sylvia, with what's in you. When you find the zone, you start to realize that there is much more in you than you give yourself credit for. Now, beloved, a lot of you are not going to admit that, because to admit that is to have to live up to the implications of being called to do something bigger than what you know. But there is a level of your life that will never get healed until you reconcile with your purpose. I believe that that's one of the reasons why many of you are still broken. It's because the next level of healing is only going to be useful in surrender. If you don't intend to obey, then you don't need to be healed. You're going to live fractured, love fractured. But if you tell God you want to be healed, for many of you, he's going to ask you why. And if you don't reconcile with the point and the purpose of God for your life, you may end up stuck. Naaman, a fighter, management of being an untouchable, because that's who I'm anointed for. An undeliverable, that's who I'm called to. The management of being seen as a social, cultural disease and being charged with teaching people how to fight must have been extremely tormenting. It had to be tormenting to go in front of soldiers and say, use this spear and use that spear, and have to do so with gloves. Because who really feels confident teaching when they can't touch? Who really feels comfortable with educating when they have to keep a distance to their disciples? This man was a military commander and yet was an outlaw. Could not be touched. And you find that there is this relationship now, because nobody can touch you. You know, you're untouchable. We don't do that with them over there, you know. And so what happens is, in scriptures, do your research. Whenever normal people don't want to touch a specific type of people, you're going to find a prophet somewhere. The force of joy. I said, whenever you find that there is a person that people don't want to touch, God's going to look for somebody who has the power to see like him. Which proves that when God sees you, he does not see your leprosy. He is God. He's not interacting with your diagnosis. He is interacting with your destiny. Who am I talking to? And many of you think God has been ignoring you, but he's trying to prove to you it is a waste of my time to have a discussion about your disease. I want to talk to you about your destiny. And if we can have a real talk about your destiny, the mountains will melt like wax before me. I can get you healed if I can get you in my will. Mistress said, if you could only go to the prophet, maybe he can cure you. They go and like, we understand, appreciate you, but we are more pastoral people. We're more teaching people. We believe that you just name it and that is it. You take it to the Lord and leave it there. He goes to the king of Israel. Yo, I'm going to give you an offering. 10 suits, some shekels, heal them. And the king tore his robe. He literally, and that's a sign of quitting. He was like, are you going to insult my cap? And he understood that he was capped off. There are people, leaders, and churches that are tearing their robes. They're capping because of who they won't touch. And then when they find Elisha, Lord have mercy, touching the untouchable, they got to demonize Elisha because Elisha is prophesying to people with problems. Went to the king of Israel. King of Israel said, I ain't God. I can't do nothing with you. He says, fine. I'm going to go find this prophetic zone. I'm going to enter into this space, okay? And I'm going to see if Elisha is bothered by what he sees in me. Pay attention. He walks up to Elisha's house. Now, mind you, Naaman is a reputable man. He made jet, ebony. Dude, his face is on movies, and he knows people. He's got thousands of people. He got a blue check on Instagram. He gets to the door, Robert, and Elisha is eating some sunflower seeds. Hey, glory. And he looks out the window and says, here comes Naaman. So he finds an assistant. It's going to get good in a minute. Go tell Naaman, dip himself in some dirty water. Jordan was extremely bacterially infectious and unclean. dip yourself 7 times in some water. He finished eating his sunflower seeds, and the servant goes to Naaman and said, hey, the prophet said, tell you thus and so and thus and so. And Naaman immediately said, do you know who I am? Excuse me. What? There is an offense, because just before you get healed, the Lord is going to arrange for your heart to be offended. If your healing is to be stewarded appropriately, you got to have the right heart for healing. My God, you can't have the wrong heart and be healed. So God will orchestrate an occasion to offend you, because what offends you reveals you. And either you're going to have your dignity or your destiny, but you will not have both. Oh, yes. Do you know who I am? You're going to send one of the Levitical orders after me? I'm a pastor. I'm a licensed minister. I'm an ordained. I came up on a prayer wheel. I'm a saint of God. Service, I don't know what to tell you, fam. He watching Sanford and Son and eating these sunflowers here. Naaman walks away offended. Offended. It was the devil's way of keeping a sick man crippled. It never ceases to amaze me that people who need healing have time to be offended. I don't understand how you are depressed, insecure, you lack confidence, you got pain, and I mean obvious pain, and you got the time, the space, the mental room to hold an offense. Walks away mad. You couldn't even wave your hand, say preach. Now here we have another discussion, because native to the flesh is an inclination towards safety and predictability. Deborah. There are people who want to be able to safely know in the flesh how God is going to do what he's going to do. And in case you ain't read none of the Bible, just when you get confident that it's going to come this way, and it's going to move this fast, and it's going to show up this way, God looks at you, lets you worship it, desire it, think it, and he flips the script. And if he don't, he can't be God. It does not matter how certain you are that what you need is coming this way. God is going to always do it the opposite of how you wanted it. Oh, that's real good. He's got to do it opposite. Hey, he's got to do it opposite. He has to do it opposite. He is the God of your opposite. He is the God that does it the antithesis. He's going to do it the exact opposite way of how you want him to do it. And the reason he does it the opposite is so that when you become okay, you won't take the glory for yourself. You don't have the intellect. You don't have the money. You don't have the degree to be able to forecast how the Almighty is going to move. This is why you just got to trust him, because there's going to come a time, preach Negro, when you're not going to trace him. And if you can't trace him, you got to choose to trust him. And when you can't trust him, you got to use your worship to trace him. Well, I'm working it here. Come on, tell somebody, trust him when you can't trace him. Open your mouth, say, trust him when you can't trace. Do what I said do. I said, tell somebody, trust him when you can't trace him. God is not going to let you figure him out. I don't know who I'm talking to in this Anglican church. God is not going to let you figure him out. Because if you can figure him out, then there's a greater chance that you'll never be delivered from fear. If you can figure him out, you're going to try to interact with him in the flesh. If he's always predictable and there is no surprise in your life, then you can never go from glory to glory and from faith to faith. I I think 32.5 of you are somewhere in the middle of glory to the next realm of glory, strength and the next realm of strength. You are literally in the middle point, and God is saying to all of you, if you will lose the need to figure me out, I will catapult you, I will shift you. My thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways. As the heavens are high above the earth, so are my ways from your ways. He is the untraceable God. Hey, he is the untraceable God. That means that there's going to come a moment, particularly as it pertains to your healing, where you're not going to know how this is going to figure it out. And if I'm to go a little deeper, I believe you've come to the point in your life where you've got to prioritize whether or not you want the provision or the preference. If I tell you I'm going to use you to touch people, are you going to say yes to that or fight me about how I choose to do that? If I tell you I'm going to deliver your family, is it going to fluster you that it's not going to come through the one who has the most pedigree? Because statistically, it's always the most demonized children that have the greatest anointing. You see, the devil figures out very early who has large-scale assignments, and then he assigns high-level power, you don't want to help me, to make sure that this boy or girl never figures out who they are. The whole intent of hell is to keep them from cracking the code of destiny, because if they ever figure out who they are, then they're going to start trying to figure out who he is, and once they know who he is, they will not be stopped. Now, I want you to grow up. And I want you to make this confession. I've got to finish my message, but I want you to just let the devil know I don't care how he does it. Come on, lift your hands and say, I don't care how you do it. Or you would be shouting if you meant that. I don't care how you do it. I don't care how you do it. If you're going to heal me with medicine, fine. If you're going to heal me by faith, fine. I'm just glad you're going to heal me. If you're going to provide through the government, fine. If you're going to provide some supernatural way, fine. I am past the point of trying to grab a hold on how you going to do it. You are God. And beside you, there is not another. And you don't need my partnership or my collaboration. However you going to do it, just do it. Shout hallelujah. It doesn't matter how he does it. Come on, I'm talking to you. It does not matter how he does it. It does not matter how he does it. God is calling you out of frustration because there is no sign. Hey, hey, hey. And there is no symptom. And there is no proof that it's coming. But if God be God, heaven and earth will fade before one word of his falls to the ground. He will do it if you stop preferring how. Say preach. Naaman, in his dignity, in his guardedness, in his pomp and self-preservation, says, fine, woo, but ain't there some more cleaner waters I can go to? I'll do what you say, just my own way. Okay, if I've got to obey, I'm going to do it on my terms. but you never gain access to miracles on your terms. See, when you start to protect your terms, what you're showing God is you're really not desperate yet. You know, your terms are temporal and they are rooted in a lot of stuff. And God told me tonight he's looking for a people that are willing to change their terms, their personal life policies, their personal objectives, and the bullet-pointed ways that it's going to happen. Either you're going to have a miracle or a plan that you trust. were clean. This is a leper. He's like, I'm afraid of being infected because, hey, Timon, if I obey you at Jordan, the risk that my condition will become worse is high. Now, when you have to believe God, particularly for something unprecedented, often you're going to hit a tension spot between risk and revelation. You are never going to progress while your only concentration is risk. If I fully commit, I could get worse. If I get fully submitted, I could lose more money. If I fully yield, then I'm not going to know. There are risks, and if you're honest, risk has a lot of value. You'll have a revelation in that still small voice, and risk will come in the room like, what up? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But here is the wisdom. When you're in a place where you're in between risk and revelation, then your only way out is instruction. Let me help you realize something. The unbothered culture has to be set up for a sick people to be instructed. A sick people has to be instructed before they are healed. If a sick person gets healed beyond instruction, they start to lack the emotional fortitude to live whole. So what God does to a sick person is he instructs them and then heals them. Now, here is your problem. If you are so busy being frustrated at your circumstance that you don't follow your instructions, then you're going to be overcome by the circumstance. Who am I preaching to? All of us at one time or another have been in a circumstance that we did not like. And then there are others of us who were involved in a circumstance beyond our control. Many of us were born into a circumstance. Some of us had a circumstance because of what we tried to be for other people. But the devil's attack on you is to get you more frustrated at the circumstance so that you can ignore the instructions. But your instructions are always more powerful than your circumstances. Hey, I said your instructions are almost always more powerful than your circumstance. You ought not ever spend more time meditating on the circumstance over the instructions, and meditating on the problems over the instructions, and focusing on the disease over the instructions. Now, when you find that he was willing to obey the instructions even in risk, he was healed. That's not the miracle. The miracle is verses 1 through 16. The sick man was trying to sanitize his situation by staying away from dirt. In his mind, if I dip in the dirty, I'll get worse. When it should have been, if I don't get in the dirty, what's the most I've got to lose? Either I'm going to die sick or I'm going to die trying. But I'm not going to live. Y'all don't want to have church. Either I'm going to die now or I'm going to die in obedience. But I'm not going to edit and alter and renovate what God told me just in case this is going to be how I get my miracle. He wanted to stay away from dirt so he wouldn't get infected. He goes to the dirt, Deacon Martin. It's almost your turn. And he dips in the water 7 times. I'm not naming no more. I'm somebody who needs healing. I'm not a life coach right now. I'm somebody that needs healing. I'm not a father right now. I'm not a mother right now. I'm not a CEO. I'm not nothing. I'm somebody who needs healing. And once God could get him to the place where he would be willing to completely shed every layer of what he was known for, that God could get him healed. Listen to me. If you're going to be healed, You can't use your career. You can't use your pedigree. You can't use your knowledge. You can't use your experience. All of that stuff is in the way of your healing, because it's not the Father he's trying to heal. It's not the executive he's trying to heal. He's trying to heal the heart, and he's trying to get to the core of a man. And so when he obeys and he goes into the dirty water, he comes up, and now he's grateful. Oh, Elisha, watch this. Oh, Elisha, I got a paid in full offering. I got a strong seed I'm going to sow into you. Hey! And Elisha said, appreciate your seed. That's what that. Now I know you ain't heard a prophet say that in a long time. Appreciate your seed. But because I'm a healer, you can't pay me. Because I'm called to unbothered people. Normally, I am accustomed to being rewarded by God, so I'm not expecting to be rewarded by you. I touch dirty stuff because of what he does for me, not for what they can do for me. Now, Naaman, here's the point. Here's the whole message right here. It's going to bless you. Naaman, who was running from dirt, mud, fish, anything that looked dark, he wanted some clean, chlorine. Bria, dude got to Naaman and was like, fine, watch this. Since you won't take my offering, let me get some dirt from this place. Say this place. Say this place. Say this place. Say this place. Let me get some dirt from this place so I can put it on my mule and carry the dirt back with me to my place. I want to carry the essence of what's in of what's in that dirt. And I want to put it on here so I can take it home, because everything don't happen in every place. Some stuff is in the soil. Y'all ain't ready for me. It's not a strategy. It's not a graphic. It's not this jumbo chart. It's in the soil. You, unfortunately, will not be healed everywhere. You won't be delivered everywhere. There are houses that say the name Jesus, that pass out hymnals, that do altar calls, and they've not been coded for your destiny. There are environments that got lights, my God. They got smoke, and they want to replicate what they see, but they've not been set up for your struggle. You got to stay in the zone, stay in the zone, stay in the zone. Naaman had a revelation. I've been running from dirt, and now what I realized that what I needed all along was dirt from the right place. I feel God today, because all dirt ain't the same. You can grow certain stuff in certain places, but certain dirt and certain soil has different supernatural activity on it. I was in Guatemala, Guatemala. It's literally a city on the hill. One of the most unique countries I've ever been to in my life. And the entire village is saved. It is mandatory to be saved. I took Sia and Apostle BJ with me. And every morning at about 5 a.m. there would be a bell. And folks, families, it was like Bible times, would come out of their houses and they would stand on the mountains and they would cry out to God. I mean, crying. I would be in my hotel, like, what is that lamenting and what is that moaning and what is that groaning? And then I realized, oh my God, these people are in prayer. It was a civil order that if you're going to live here, you've got to cry. If you're going to raise your family here, you've got to cry. I was blessed by that. I was impressed by that. But you know what shifted me? The next day they took me to where they grew things. And they took me to where the carrots were and where the cabbages were. And no exaggeration, I saw carrots that were like 4 feet long. I saw vegetation that was bigger than my body. I've never seen pumpkins that took 12 tell people to move. Why? Because what's in the soil determines how big the thing is going to get. Now you can get offended and mad and take your tail to some other soil and you're going to cap your growth. But if you stay in the zone, I'm working in here. If you stay in the zone, it's going to be dirty, but it's the right dirt for you. Select the right soil. Select the right soil. The diseased cannot be picky. Some of you ain't healed because of the wrong relationship with the soil. Some of you are still bound because you refuse to get the soil and take it home. I don't want to start a fit, but I want you to take a minute and remember where he healed you. Now, it may not be lupus or something like that. Some of you literally walked on the right soil, I don't care where it was, and hit a glory whiplash and was one way before it hit you and another way. You ought to praise God for the place he healed you at. You ought to praise God that you were dead on arrival but stepped in the right zone. Come on, I dare you for a minute. When was the last time you gave God a there's no place like home prayer? If I'd have went over there with this nose ring in my nose, they wouldn't have ministered to me. If I'd have went over there with these tattoos on my face, they'd have told me to leave out. But I got in the zone, auto zone, and they took years off of my process. Love me enough to cast the devil out of me, break the powers of hell, and loose me into glory. Don't ever dishonor the dirt that delivered you. Did you hear me what I said? Don't ever curse the soil that grew you. It don't have to be a perfect place. That place is responsible for reversing the molecular disorder that had it continued in that way, you would be dead. God puts the divine in the dirty. Your problem is you sitting up with a flesh-eating disease demanding perfection. How you gonna be a hypocrite with as fractured as you are? It's all about the soil. And the secret to destiny is discerning where your soil is. It's all about discerning that soil. And when you come in the zone that's yours, it don't matter what race you are. It don't matter what age you are. It don't matter how much money you got. It don't matter. See, the zone makes all of those factors a non-factor. See it. When you get on the right zone, all of the details around you open up to respond to what God is going to do next. Whatever your diagnosis is, whatever your last defeat was, in the zone, everything is possible. All nations, I'm challenging you. Hey! And I'm talking to every campus watching me right now. Commit to your zone. If you will stay in your zone, you're going to hit a speed pocket. And the Lord is going to grow you out and stretch you far and make you big. He's going to expand you. He's going to deepen you. He's going to open your intellect. He's going to stretch open your creativity. But don't dishonor the dirt. Come on, encourage your neighbor. Say, don't dishonor the dirt. Don't dishonor the dirt. The unbothered culture is about giving everybody a home. There literally is no place like home. And you've got to find your soil. You come in here, worship, roll around, get healed and delivered. That's only part one. Part two is you take that dirt and you take it to your apartment. You take that dirt and you take it to that cubicle. You don't just pray that through when you got one of these. You ought to be in that car. It's the only way you'll make it. We've not really been effective until the dirt goes in your days. What you learn in here, you apply out there. That's what the unbothered culture was. Elisha was unbothered. Oh, you a leper. Okay. You're untouchable. Follow my instructions. Hear the word of the Lord. Anybody can be made whole with the right instructions. Even you. Whatever your story is, whatever your journey has been, all of you can be whole as you follow your instructions. So now it matters who your instructors are. Many of you are not healed because you've got too